guys, it's Cynthia and welcome to my studio. I'm going to be doing a portrait study today and kind of an informal time-lapse chat. This isn't really going to be a tutorial, but I'll share a quick rundown of the materials that I'm using and put some links to my gear down in the description box in case you're curious about what I'm working with. So I'm using oil paint today on my Sienna Craftech large Pochade box, which is a really great easel that I can pack up quickly for travel, but it's also really great for small studies in the studio. I'll post my palette up on the screen. This is my typical go-to palette for studies and for when I do life painting sessions. I mostly paint people, and it covers a large range of natural skin tones from light to dark. And if I'm working with a model that has colorful hair or a bright costume or something, I can always add in other hues to this palette as I need them. And lastly, for my medium, I'll be using the inevitable hard to clean up spill known as Liquin. For studies, I like to use these hardboard panels, which I order in bulk online from Blick art supply. They come pre-primed, but I really hate the surface. It's super slick and I don't like the way it holds paint at all. So I like to give mine another coat of gesso before I work on them. And I like to add a neutral tint to my gesso with some acrylic paint that helps me not go to bright white too quickly. So as we get started with the painting, I wanted to talk about why it's been so long since I've posted a video on YouTube and what some of my future plans are for this channel. So for a little bit of backstory, in 2012, I was really interested in filming the making of a painting, and I did. It's on my channel. It's the one lonely video that's been sitting on my channel for over 5 years. And back then, I didn't really have a concept of what YouTube was. It was either a different beast back then or I was just oblivious. I wanted to use it as a means to share my work, but I didn't have a concept of a channel or what it meant to be a YouTube content creator. It was just a means to an end. So after I posted the video, I honestly just kind of forgot about it. Over the next couple of months, it just faded into the back of my memory, and I had intended on making some more videos, and I did actually make a couple of tutorials and a couple of the little bits and bobs here and there for a friend's project, and I just never posted any of that to my own channel. So then a few months ago, my phone went through an update. And all of a sudden, I started receiving notifications from YouTube. It linked up with my Google account, I guess, and all of a sudden when anyone would comment on that old video, I would get a notification on my phone. And I was really blown away by the responses to the video that were still happening. At first, I just thought like, oh, someone necroed my old post. That's cool. But it became clear that there was interest in making more videos. I had comments like, you have 1,000 subscribers, why won't you post another video? Are you dead? It sort of ranged between frustration and curiosity, I think. And I was just so flabbergasted by how many people had subscribed to this channel that I never started. So if you did subscribe, thank you from the bottom of my heart. That means a lot to me. I'm glad that you believed in that one video enough to want to see more. And the comments made me realize that maybe videos would be a really good way to share some work. I work full-time, and so all my creative pursuits outside of my art director job are somewhat hidden from the public. I feel like over time I've become less engaged with the art community that I came up in. And it's a really, really great community. It's given me a lot, and I want to give back. So videos are a way that I'm really interested in trying to do that. I don't want to just be another tutorial channel. I don't necessarily just want to do time lapses all the time. I've got ideas of other things that I want to share based on my career and my experience. But my channel's theme, I've decided, is going to be artistic growth, because it's a topic I care a lot about, And it's something I have a lot of experience with. I've had a lot of interesting milestones and pivotal events in my career that I think are worth sharing. A lot of mistakes that I've learned from or challenges that I've overcome are potentially worth sharing and could help you or other artists get over a hump or get from one level to the next level. And so I really hope that you guys enjoy what I'm going to try to do here. This is video number 2, but hopefully there will be many more. And I'm really excited about what's to come. So on the theme of artistic growth, what I wanted to talk about today while this study is time-lapsing away on the screen is why I do studies. And if anyone's familiar with my work, most of my commercial work is fantasy art related. I've worked for a long time in the fantasy book and game industry. So doing portrait studies might seem kind of different from the kinds of commercial work that I usually do. But really, I like characters, I like people, and portraits are a great way to study different expressions and different looks and faces, and it's just a really good practice. The face is just one of the most complex and interesting things that one can paint. Another thing is a lot of my commercial work, most of it in fact, is digital. And some people might say, well, why are you doing traditional studies? That's weird. But really, my traditional work influences my digital work quite a lot. The processes that I go through for my traditional work end up informing my digital painting a good deal. It's about figuring out how to make natural brush strokes and mix my colors, and it's a really good skill set to have to influence other media. In fact, digital art spends a lot of time trying to mimic traditional art, especially the way that I paint. So if you can figure out how to have a good natural hand and a skill set that's based in traditional, you'll spend a lot less time post-processing your digital images to look more realistic, if that makes sense. And so that's one of the benefits, but there are several. The second is, sometimes I'm doing, or I have plans to do, a larger painting, something conceptual or narrative that I want to do, but there are parts of it that I know are going to be challenging. Like, for example, if I have a character and they've got a pose that's not straight on, or if I'm trying to paint a character that has a really unique face or something like that, or costuming, I can do a study ahead of time to make a roadmap and build some visual vocabulary and some muscle memory for how to approach that specific subject matter. So even if I'm not planning something for a larger painting, I love using studies as a way to explore different techniques and try to figure out ways of handling something I haven't tried before. Most often, it's that I've found a model or I've shot a reference of something with really awesome lighting. Like sometimes it's even I'm watching TV and there's a really cool scene on the screen and I'll have to pause it and take screen caps because the lighting is just so cinematic and beautiful. But I like to work a little lesson into everything that I do. There's always some kind of intent. And for the case of this study that you're watching right now, I was interested in keeping the core shadow under the chin and under the cheek really accurate to the reference. This is a pretty typical lighting setup that you'd find for like a figure painting class or something, but I actually shot the reference photo that I'm using today about 10 years ago, and it was shot outside, so there's a strong overhead single source light and some reflection coming up off the ground and a light shirt that she was wearing. So it's got kind of a really good core shape underneath the chin and by the cheek. And also the eyes. Like the eyes are just completely lost in shadow. The model was also wearing dark makeup. So it's given me the challenge of suggesting where the eyes are without actually painting eyes. Usually with It's pretty common with photography to have the model find the light, meaning basically look at the light source, and you get really bright sclera, you get really bright eyes. And here I've got the opposite. It's probably just a couple of brush strokes in there to suggest like, oh yeah, there's an iris in here somewhere. And I found that really interesting. The model also has really light hair. And psychologically, I love that makes me keep my skin tones within the face relatively compressed, just keep the value range compressed, and not go to bright white highlights too quickly. I talked a little bit about that with the gesso, but what that means is I avoid the beginner mistake of blowing out my highlights with straight out of the tube titanium white, which was a problem that I had when I was starting to get serious about oil painting. I would just completely destroy my highlights with bright white, and it was a challenge that I knew I had to overcome, and doing studies has really helped me attack that and get better about that and be mindful of it whenever I start a bigger painting. So self-assessment and figuring out my bad habits and challenge areas is something I'll probably talk a lot about in future videos on artistic growth. But that really gives you a good idea of what you should be studying. And I like to work in those lessons wherever I can. But maybe the most important reason that I do these studies, like especially for me, is that they help me relax. They're just a great decompression exercise after a long day of work or on the weekend when I've got a few hours. I really just like being with the paint sometimes. And it's easy to set up my space so that I can just come in my studio for a couple hours at a time and just lay my paint and medium out and just go. And sometimes, I love solving problems in illustration. I love working from an art description and trying to find what I love about a piece and execute on it to its fullest. That's one challenge I like. But I also really enjoy just not having to please a client, not having to make a statement, not having to put a lot of mental weight and emotional stress on a piece. And so that's where these studies are really great. They're super low stakes. They don't have to be a magnum opus of a painting, and I can choose to share them or not. Like half the studies I do, I don't ever post on social media or my Instagram or anything. They just stay with me. They were about the experience. They were about just painting. And there's a lot of value to that. So if you're ever wondering what to do, maybe you're stuck for ideas, or you just really want to paint but don't have a big idea in mind, studies are fantastic. You should just find some good reference, go take pictures of your friends, go find an old photo that you've taken like I did here. I've got an archive of a bunch of old stuff that I've shot that I love to go back to when I do these things, and just go for it. Figure out something that you're trying to learn or a technique that you want to try and just see what happens. You got to start somewhere to know where to go next. So have fun with it. As you're thinking about what kind of study you would want to do or what kind of challenges you would want to overcome, feel free to leave me a comment on this video letting me know what you're struggling with, because I want to know how I can draw on my experience the best to inform you guys. This is about you. And so it could be anything you want, anything at all that you're struggling with. It could be that you want to get into art but don't know where to begin, or maybe you're already a working artist and want to make it to the next step in your career, or you want to build a new portfolio and are just confused, or you got a bad portfolio review and you want some help through that. Anything at all, you're welcome to let me know. So this study's been progressing a lot while I've been talking, and I'm going to let the rest of it play through and post a picture of the finish at the end. But before I go, I want to say thank you again to everyone who subscribed to my channel. It's been 5 long years that you've stuck with me, and that's not nothing. No one subscribes to a channel lightly, so I really appreciate your support. And to anyone who's new to the channel, please subscribe. There will be more content, and I'm looking forward to having a really great experience with you and sharing a lot of things. So I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee and start another painting, and hopefully I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.